Bonjour et bienvenue dans Émission Impossible où l'on vous dit tout sur la mobilité d'aujourd'hui ou comment se déplacer mieux en polluant moins. Alors que l'Union européenne a décidé d'accorder plus de 6 milliards d'euros sur 3 ans aux pays en développement, nous avons voulu savoir quels étaient réellement leurs besoins en termes d'infrastructures. Le transport, secteur ô combien stratégique, est un vrai casse-tête pour beaucoup d'entre eux. Se déplacer dans Mexico City, New Delhi ou Hanoï est un cauchemar de tous les jours pour les millions d'habitants de ces mégalopoles. Réduire la congestion urbaine, développer des réseaux de transport en commun fiables et améliorer la qualité de l'air sont aujourd'hui des priorités climatiques, mais à quel prix? Et peuvent-ils vraiment se les offrir? 7,1 tonnes de CO2, c'est ce que produit un habitant de Bangkok en un an. Le transport y contribuant pour 38%. Aujourd'hui, Bangkok et Londres arrivent ex-aequo au concours d'émissions de CO2. Une compétition peu glorieuse, il faut bien le dire, mais tellement significative. En effet, l'activité et les déplacements dans les pays émergents se développent à un rythme impressionnant, mais pas anormal en période de croissance. Lorsque l'on sait que Bangkok sera affecté en plus par de multiples inondations dues au changement climatique, on comprend bien l'urgence d'agir, et vite. Promouvoir le transport en commun, c'est la recette rapide et efficace donnée par tous les experts pour réduire la congestion urbaine. Mais comment y croire vraiment lorsque l'on se retrouve aux heures de pointe, entassés comme des sardines dans un bus pendant 4 heures et tous les jours? Rendre les bus et les trains plus confortables, améliorer les accès aux stations, imposer les taxes sur l'essence ou aller jusqu'à imposer un jour de repos pour les voitures. Quelles sont les vraies solutions pour rendre le transport en commun plus attractif? Et à quand le slogan? À nous de faire préférer le bus.
The difficulties, I think, are, as well, you need to, as background, is the huge growth that's taking place in these countries. I mean, for instance, in China, it's expected there will be 700 million vehicles, powered vehicles in the year 2050, which is more than, or nearly as many as all the vehicles in the world at the moment. So there's a potential for huge growth.
You know, as incomes rise, people will buy cars. It's an aspirational need. So you can't say that I'll stop people from buying cars. But you must make it somewhat more difficult, that they must have a parking. They should not buy a car and park it on public space. So some of these measures need to be introduced. And even if somebody owns a car, the use of the car for routine needs, you know, to go to work daily or to go to school daily, these should be discouraged and replaced by public transport.
That we may use different forms of ownership rather than just owning a car. We'll be looking at ways in which you could rent or lease a car. If you have a leasing system, you can always get the best technology that's available. So there's an emphasis there on you would hire the most appropriate vehicle if it was a small vehicle or a larger vehicle. It would also get round the problems that in many cities, particularly in developing countries, that they don't just have the space for cars. And if there's mass car ownership, you have the problem that how do you accommodate these cars? In a city like here, Copenhagen, probably about 20, maybe 25% of the space at ground level is available for cars. In Los Angeles, it's about 60%. But in many of the developing cities, it's only 10 to 15%. So they haven't got the space.
A car would need 20 or more meters long and 5 meter wide space for one car to be driven. But if we transport by train, in that space, how many people can sit there? Only sitting perhaps more than 30 people. And including standing people, then 100. So 100 times space saving.
The price will be still very expensive even in 2050, but we assume developing countries can afford some of the electric vehicles, particularly the Chinese have a very good technology with relatively lower price.
Can the emerging economies leapfrog in the sense that they jump to a newer, cleaner technology rather than going through the process of following exactly the same pathway that the richer countries have followed.
One problem is, for example, with buses. Most of the buses traveling in Manila are using second-hand engines imported from Japan, so they are much more emitting. So solutions should be driven to make sure that people stay in the bus, rather than that they move to cars or other motorized transport. Say in the last couple of years, what you see in Manila, because the bus systems are not very reliable and not very comfortable, the moment people can afford to, they buy a motorbike. And that has to be reversed. But one very Philippine example is with jeepneys. Now jeepneys are the type of mini buses, if you like, that very many poor people use to get across Manila. Those are one of the most polluting vehicles at the moment. And there is a new initiative in Manila called Formula Juan, meaning Formula One, but then for John or Juan. That helps convert those jeepneys from using diesel to using LPG. And the scheme is as such that corporations or organizations can adopt a jeepney for about $5,000. The jeepney gets converted, and in return that company gets free advertising on that jeepney for the entire year, while at the same time that advertising then shows this jeepney is running on LPG and not on diesel, and thus producing much less air pollution.
Voilà, notre petite escapade garantie sans carbone se termine ici. Je vous retrouve la semaine prochaine pour le sprint final des négociations, que j'aurai le plaisir, on l'espère tous, de commenter avec vous. Au revoir.